time capsule isn't always a harmless metal box with an old note inside. Sometimes it's a truly dangerous message from the past. In reality, a time capsule can be any tightly sealed pocket of history, a tomb, a sarcophagus, or even permafrost that's been frozen for centuries. And judging by what has happened before, some of these capsules are probably better left untouched. In 1973 in Wawel Cathedral, restorers opened the tomb of the Polish king Casimir IV Jagiellon, which had been sealed for almost 5 centuries. There were 12 scientists and restorers involved. According to medical reports, within just a few weeks after the opening, 10 of them had died. The air in the crypt was found to be full of toxic mold, mainly Aspergillus flavus. Its spores could lie dormant for centuries and, once inhaled, cause severe lung infections. A similar story happened to Egyptologist Rami Romani. While filming a documentary, he was the first to enter an Egyptian burial chamber that, according to estimates, hadn't been opened for about 600 years. The very next day, his temperature shot up to 108 degrees Fahrenheit. He started coughing up blood, and he had hallucinations. Doctors seriously thought he might not survive. Romani himself is convinced he was knocked down by microorganisms lurking in the dust of that ancient tomb. And now let's move on to a truly ancient time capsule, permafrost. From 2014 to 2023, scientists woke up at least several ancient zombie viruses from Siberian permafrost, including Pithovirus sibericum, about 30,000 years old, and an even older one, the 48,000-year-old Pandora virus Yedema. So far, they only infect amoebas, but virologists themselves warn that as the permafrost melts, pathogens dangerous to humans and animals could theoretically be released, which is why no one is deliberately trying to revive such strains. So sometimes old locks, ice layers, and stone doors aren't romantic hiding places at all, but very dangerous time capsules where the past can still reach out and bite us. Next, I'll tell you about archaeological discoveries that might rewrite history. There's a photo that's been circulating online for years of an ancient coin with an alien, supposedly found by archaeologists in Egypt. An elongated gray face, strange symbols, and even a 17th century date. On UFO websites, it's presented as a sensation that should rewrite history. But when skeptics started digging into the source, a very different story came out. It turned out this wasn't an archaeological find at all, but a piece by an artist using the nickname Cryptomaniacal for a Worth 1000 photo contest in 2011. He simply took a real Roman obverse with the portrait of Antinous and glued it together with the reverse of a 17th century French token showing a heavenly shield and the Latin phrase opportunus adest, which translates as he appears at the right moment. So the alien coin is a perfect example of how a fake artifact can race around the entire internet and almost become part of alternative history.
The Kola super deep borehole was never meant to be a door to anything. It started as a scientific project in the Soviet Union, a mission to drill as deep into the Earth's crust as possible. They wanted to study what lay beneath, push the boundaries of geology, and maybe even get closer to the Earth's mantle. What they found, however, was something that made even the most skeptical scientists uneasy. The drilling began in the 1970s in a remote part of Russia's Kola Peninsula. The deeper they went, the stranger things became. At first, the drill hit temperatures far higher than expected, nearly 350 degrees Fahrenheit at about 7.5 miles down. Rock should have been solid at that depth, but it acted strangely, almost as if something was shifting beneath the surface. Then came the noises. During one of the deep drilling phases, workers reported hearing strange sounds coming from the borehole. At first, they dismissed it as equipment noise or seismic activity, but the deeper they drilled, the louder it became. The sounds didn't resemble the usual groans of shifting rock or underground tremors. They were different. They were voices, echoing, distant, almost human yet distorted and unnatural. Recordings were taken. Those who listened described it as an overwhelming mix of wails and desperate screams. Some refused to work on the project after that. They said it felt as if the ground beneath them was alive, something watching from below. Rumors spread fast. People whispered that the scientists had reached the very edge of hell itself, that they had almost broken through and let something out. The official reports dismissed the sounds as geological phenomena, the result of pressure changes or rock fracturing. But those explanations didn't sit well with everyone. If that were true, why did some engineers refuse to speak about what they had heard? Why were there sudden funding cuts and secrecy surrounding the last phases of the project? Eventually, the borehole was sealed. The project had been abandoned, citing technical difficulties and excessive heat. Some say it was because the drill bits kept breaking. Others believe it was because they had found something no one was ever supposed to find. Beneath the pyramids of Egypt, a hidden world stretches far below the sand. Archaeologists have mapped out tombs, burial chambers, and passageways carved thousands of years ago. But some tunnels defy explanation. They don't connect to tombs, temples, or treasure chambers. They simply go nowhere. One such tunnel was discovered beneath the Pyramid of Menkaure in Giza. It extends for hundreds of feet, its walls smooth, its path deliberate, yet it leads to a dead end. No artifacts, no inscriptions, no sign of why it was dug in the first place. Another lies beneath the Great Pyramid, an almost perfectly straight passage sealed off at both ends. Attempts to send robotic cameras inside have been met with technical failures and unexplained malfunctions. Who built these tunnels and for what purpose? Some theorists believe they were escape routes, others say they hid something never meant to be uncovered. But here's the real question. Why were they sealed so deliberately, almost as if someone wanted to ensure that whatever was inside would never see the light of day? If that wasn't strange enough, similar tunnels have been found across the world, in places where ancient civilizations supposedly had no contact. And that brings us to Turkey, where an underground city was discovered completely by accident. A man in Turkey was renovating his home when he knocked down a wall in his basement. Instead of bricks and mortar, he found a dark passageway stretching far beyond his property. At first he assumed it was an old storage area, but when he ventured inside, he realized it wasn't just a room, it was an entire city buried beneath the earth. Derinkuyu is one of the largest underground cities ever found. It has multiple levels, stretching over 200 feet down, complete with ventilation shafts, water wells, and massive stone doors designed to seal off entire sections. Thousands of people could have lived there for months, maybe years, without ever needing to surface. But why would an entire civilization choose to vanish beneath the ground? Theories range from ancient wars to cataclysmic disasters, but some details don't add up. The tunnels are too precisely cut, the air circulation too advanced for a simple hideout. Some chambers appear to have been built for something other than living, spaces too large for comfort, staircases leading nowhere, doors sealing off sections that seem empty. What were they really hiding from? And why does this underground city resemble the strange, forgotten tunnels beneath the pyramids? Maybe there's a connection, one lost beneath centuries of stone and secrecy. And speaking of things that shouldn't exist, let's move to Texas, where a wall buried underground has baffled scientists for years. Beneath the soil of Rockwall, Texas, a discovery was made that shouldn't exist. Workers digging for a well in the 1800s struck something solid. Massive stone blocks stacked neatly, stretching deep into the earth. At first they thought it was the ruins of an ancient fort, but as they continued digging, the structure didn't stop. It went deeper, wider, forming what looked like an enormous buried wall. The formation is made of enormous stones, some weighing several hundred pounds, fitted together with unsettling precision. Some of these blocks have what appear to be carvings or tool marks, as if shaped by human hands. But here's where things get strange. Geologists say the rock is natural, supposedly formed over 100 million years ago. If that's true, then how did these stones align so perfectly, and why does it stretch for miles beneath the ground? Some believe it's the work of an ancient forgotten civilization. Others insist it's a natural phenomenon, an oddly symmetrical freak of nature. But then there are those who whisper that something else is at play, that we're looking at evidence of a lost history we were never supposed to uncover. And speaking of lost history, let's move to the ocean, where an entire sunken continent was discovered beneath New Zealand. For centuries, New Zealand was believed to be nothing more than a series of islands in the Pacific. That changed when scientists began mapping the ocean floor and found something astonishing. Beneath the waves, stretching nearly 2 million square miles, was an entire sunken landmass. They named it Zealandia. Unlike Atlantis, this wasn't just a myth or a legend. The landmass is real. Its mountains and valleys now submerged miles beneath the ocean's surface. What's even more bizarre? This continent was above water millions of years ago, meaning it could have once supported life. The idea that an entire landmass, nearly the size of India, could sink and be completely forgotten by history is unsettling. If there were civilizations on Zealandia, their ruins would now be hidden deep beneath the ocean floor. What structures could be buried there? What artifacts have yet to be uncovered? It's a mystery that remains unsolved, and with much of Zealandia inaccessible, we may never know what secrets lie beneath. But let's shift from lost continents to something even more bizarre. Tracks in the Nevada desert that look like they were left before humans were even supposed to exist. In a remote section of Nevada, footprints have been found that don't make sense. They look human with clear impressions of toes and heels, but they're millions of years old, long before modern humans were supposed to exist. Even stranger, some appear to be wearing shoes. One of the most famous examples is a fossilized footprint found in rock that's over 300 million years old. The print is shaped like a modern shoe sole, complete with a distinct tread pattern. How could this be possible? Humans weren't even a concept at that point in Earth's history, so who or what left these tracks? Geologists have tried to explain them as unusual natural formations, but the patterns are too precise, too deliberate. If they truly are footprints, it would rewrite everything we know about history. Could they belong to an unknown prehistoric species? Or is it evidence of something even more unsettling? That someone or something walked this planet long before we did? From impossible walls to sunken continents and footprints that shouldn't exist, these discoveries challenge everything we thought we knew. But the deeper we dig, the more the past refuses to stay buried. The Atacama Desert in Chile is one of the driest places on Earth, a barren wasteland where rain rarely falls and life struggles to survive. But buried beneath its cracked surface, something deeply unsettling has been uncovered. An ancient burial site, unlike any other. Archaeologists expected to find simple graves, the kind left behind by early civilizations. Instead, they uncovered elongated skulls, twisted remains, and burial positions that didn't match any known cultural practices. Some bodies appeared contorted as if they had died in agony. Others were arranged in patterns that no one could explain. Even stranger, the soil itself seemed different. Local legends warned that this place was cursed, that those who disturbed it would suffer. Researchers who spent too much time near the site reported strange headaches, dizziness, even hallucinations. Instruments malfunctioned. Radiation readings were higher than normal, yet there was no sign of a natural source. Some believe this was a ritual burial site, a place where the dead were left to appease something, or someone. Others suggest it was an ancient quarantine zone, where the sick were left to die. But the real question is, why was it buried so deliberately? Who or what was never supposed to be found here? It started as a routine excavation, scientists digging for soil samples in a remote field. But a few feet down, their shovels struck something unexpected. Rows upon rows of strange, tightly wrapped bundles. At first they thought it was old waste, but the deeper they dug, the clearer it became. These weren't ordinary sacks. Some looked torn, revealing something unsettling inside. I think you can guess what might be inside, but who buried them here? And why? Drop your theories in the comments. Deep in the mines of South Africa, something was unearthed that defies explanation. Perfectly shaped metallic spheres, some with grooves carved around them, buried in rock that's over 2.8 billion years old. These small, smooth orbs, now called the Klerksdorp spheres, are composed of a mysterious metallic substance, far different from the surrounding rock. Some are hollow, while others are filled with an unknown mineral. The most unsettling part? Their nearly perfect symmetry, something nature rarely produces on its own. Scientists have tried to explain them as natural formations, possibly the result of volcanic processes or mineral concretion. But if that were true, why do some of these spheres have precise parallel grooves etched into their surface, as if someone or something deliberately carved them? The idea of intelligent design is troubling because the rock layer where they were found dates back billions of years, long before humans, long before even the most primitive known life forms. This discovery led to theories ranging from ancient advanced civilizations to objects left behind by an unknown species. Some even speculate they could be remnants of a lost technology, something so old that all traces of its creators have been wiped from history. The spheres remain locked away in museum collections and research facilities, but their existence poses an unsettling question. Are we really the first intelligent species to walk this planet? If something like this was found deep underground, what could be waiting for us beneath the ocean? This brings us to the waters off the coast of Portugal, where divers stumbled upon something impossible, an underwater pyramid. The Azores, an isolated archipelago in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, has long been surrounded by legends. Some claim it was once part of Atlantis, a lost civilization swallowed by the sea. But in 2013, something was discovered that turned myth into mystery. A massive pyramid-shaped structure resting on the ocean floor between the islands of São Miguel and Terceira. A local sailor first detected it using sonar. The shape was unmistakable. A four-sided pyramid, with its peak nearly 130 feet below the surface. It seemed too perfect to be a natural formation. When researchers investigated, they found that the base of the pyramid covered an area larger than a football field. The angles were sharp, the structure precise, as if it had been deliberately built. Here's where things get even stranger. Historical records suggest the Azores were uninhabited until the 1400s, when Portuguese explorers first arrived. If that's true, then who built the pyramid? Some theorists believe it could be the remains of a prehistoric civilization, one that existed before sea levels rose and swallowed entire land masses. Others suggest it could be linked to Zealandia, the lost continent buried beneath New Zealand's waters. But there's another possibility. What if the pyramid isn't ancient at all? Some reports suggest its surface is too smooth, too well preserved, leading to speculation that it could be something else entirely. A base, a beacon, something that was never meant to be found. If the ocean is still hiding structures like this, what else could be buried beneath the waves, waiting for someone to dig just a little too deep? A strange object was found near Olancha, California in 1961, something that seemed to be a manufactured device encased in rock. 3 rock collectors searching for geodes cracked one open and discovered what appeared to be a spark plug buried inside. The artifact, now called the Coso artifact, had a metallic core, a ceramic-like casing, and a hexagonal shape, features that closely resemble a modern spark plug. But there was one huge problem. The rock in which it was found was estimated to be at least 500,000 years old. If that dating is correct, it means this object was buried long before humans had any known technology, before civilization itself. How could a human-made object have ended up inside ancient rock? Some argue that the dating was wrong, that the rock may have formed around the object due to natural processes, but even that explanation raises questions. How did something so precise and artificial become embedded in a solid stone? Others suggest a more unsettling possibility, that the Coso artifact is evidence of an advanced civilization that existed long before recorded history, a species that may have reached a technological peak, only to be wiped out by time, disaster, or something unknown. And then there's an even wilder theory. What if the object wasn't made by us at all? Could it be a remnant of something, or someone else? The Coso artifact remains one of the most controversial discoveries in archaeology. It has vanished from public view, with some claiming it was misplaced, while others suggest it was hidden on purpose. Was this an ancient out-of-place object, an elaborate hoax, or proof that history is far more complicated than we believe? If objects like this can be buried for 500,000 years, what else is waiting to be discovered? And that brings us to another mysterious find, one made of pure gold and shaped like something that shouldn't have existed 1,500 years ago. Buried beneath the jungles of Colombia, archaeologists uncovered small gold figurines unlike anything they had ever seen. These ancient relics, part of the Quimbaya treasure, were crafted around 1,500 years ago by the Quimbaya civilization. Most of their artifacts resembled animals, people, and deities, things you'd expect from an ancient culture. But among them were a handful of objects that looked eerily familiar to modern eyes. These small golden figures had aerodynamic shapes, tails, wings, and upright stabilizers. Some had delta-shaped bodies like modern fighter jets. Others had curved, streamlined features that seemed designed for flight. Experts at first assumed they were stylized birds or insects, until model makers built scaled-up versions and discovered that they could fly. With the right proportions, replicas of these artifacts became functional aerodynamic models, something that should have been impossible for an ancient civilization with no known knowledge of flight. So what exactly were these objects? Some believe they were symbolic representations of mythical creatures. Others think they could be evidence that the Quimbaya people had knowledge of aerodynamics long before the first aircraft was ever built. But then, there's the theory that these aren't representations at all. Maybe they were models of something real. Were these golden objects based on actual flying machines that once soared over the jungles of South America? Mainstream archaeology dismisses the idea, but the resemblance is undeniable. Were the Quimbaya people inspired by something they saw in the skies, or did they simply create objects that coincidentally resemble modern aircraft? If the answer is the first option, then the real question is, who or what was flying those machines. In 1974, a group of farmers in China's Shanxi province was digging a well when they hit something solid. At first, they thought it was just another rock, until they cleared away more dirt and saw a face staring back at them. A face made of hardened clay, frozen in time. They had no idea that they had just stumbled upon one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in history, the Terracotta Army. What lay beneath their feet was far beyond a simple collection of statues. As excavation teams arrived, they uncovered thousands of life-sized warriors, each one unique, with different facial expressions, armor, and weapons. The soldiers stood in formation, protecting something or someone. Soon, researchers realized they were guarding the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. But there was something unsettling about the site. The deeper they dug, the more they realized that the tomb itself remained untouched. Ancient texts warned that the emperor's burial chamber contained rivers of flowing mercury, traps designed to kill intruders, and secrets that were never meant to be uncovered. The Chinese government, taking these warnings seriously, decided not to open the tomb, leaving its contents hidden beneath the earth. To this day, no one knows what truly lies inside. Could there be more than just an emperor's remains beneath the surface? Some believe that deeper within the tomb, untouched chambers hold unknown artifacts, lost knowledge, or something even stranger. The mystery remains, and the emperor's final resting place continues to guard its secrets, just as it has for over 2,000 years. And while some discoveries are too dangerous to explore, others have been preserved naturally, hidden underwater for tens of thousands of years. Off the coast of Alabama, a discovery was made beneath the waves, an entire ancient forest preserved for 60,000 years. Hidden beneath the seafloor, it had remained untouched since the last ice age, a time when this part of the ocean was dry land. It wasn't until a hurricane stirred up the seabed that divers got their first glimpse of what lay below. What they found was stunning. Massive cypress trees, their trunks still intact, their wood so well preserved that when cut, it still released the scent of fresh sap. This wasn't just driftwood, this was a fully preserved prehistoric forest, complete with root systems, logs, and stumps exactly as they had been thousands of years ago. Scientists believed that the forest was buried in sediment and protected from decay, only to be revealed now due to shifting ocean currents. But here's where things get eerie. The trees aren't just dead fossils, they're teeming with life. Bizarre, unknown species of marine creatures have made the submerged forest their home, some of which have never been seen before. Could this sunken landscape hold more than just ancient trees? What else might be lurking in a place that has been sealed away for so long? A lost world hidden for millennia, suddenly exposed for the first time in human history. But some things that were buried should stay buried, like the mummified remains found deep beneath the city of Guanajuato. In central Mexico, beneath the city of Guanajuato, lies a crypt filled with bodies that were never meant to be unearthed. In the 1800s, a cholera outbreak swept through the region, and bodies had to be buried quickly. But years later, something terrifying happened. When workers began exhuming graves, they found the corpses were not decomposing. What they uncovered was horrifying. The mummies' bodies were shockingly well preserved, their skin dry and leathery, their features frozen in expressions of terror. Some of the corpses had twisted mouths, wide eyes, and contorted limbs, as if they had died in unimaginable pain. But the most disturbing theory? Some of them might have been buried alive. This discovery led to the creation of El Museo de las Momias, a museum dedicated to the Guanajuato mummies. Visitors have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of unease when looking at the remains. Some claim they've seen the mummies shift slightly in their glass cases. Others say they've heard faint whispers echoing through the halls. Whether it's the power of suggestion or something far stranger, one thing is certain. These mummies were never meant to be disturbed. Buried beneath an English field for over 1,300 years, the Staffordshire hoard was never meant to be found. In 2009, a man with a metal detector uncovered something glinting in the soil. What he found was the largest collection of Anglo-Saxon gold ever discovered, over 3,500 pieces of finely crafted weapons, armor fittings, and mysterious golden artifacts. But the real mystery is why it was buried. There were no coins, no complete objects, only fragments as if the hoard had been deliberately broken before being hidden. Was it an offering, a betrayal, a last-ditch attempt to protect something powerful? No one knows who buried it or why they never came back for it. Even today, many of the pieces remain a puzzle. Some designs seem almost too advanced for their time. Could they be remnants of lost knowledge or something even stranger? Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: someone wanted it to stay hidden. Beneath the sands of Egypt lies a secret that's baffled explorers, archaeologists, and researchers for decades. Everyone knows the surface of the Giza Plateau, the pyramids, the Sphinx, the ancient tombs. But deep below it, hidden from tourists and kept away from the spotlight, is something far stranger. What some call a buried city. A vast, mysterious underground network carved right into the bedrock. This isn't some rumor whispered in back rooms. In the 1990s, Egyptian authorities allowed limited exploration under Giza. What was found shocked even seasoned experts. Chambers, tunnels, and entire stone-lined shafts, some stretching down more than 100 feet beneath the surface. Early explorers using ground-penetrating radar found long, horizontal corridors and voids that didn't match anything documented. One British team even claimed to have found a complete multi-level system with hallways leading in several directions, completely untouched. Some believe these tunnels are thousands of years older than the pyramids themselves. If that's true, who built them, and for what? There's almost no inscription, no clear cultural markers. Just long, cold passages that seem designed to go unnoticed. Even stranger, there's a complete media blackout on the topic today. Independent researchers trying to revisit the tunnels are often denied permits. Some say the Egyptian government, alongside international institutions, is sitting on something massive. Something that could rewrite everything we know about civilization's origins. In one case, explorers described finding a sealed underground chamber filled with ancient air, untouched for thousands of years. They were ordered to stop digging, cameras were taken, no official records were released. Since then, whispers of a subterranean city have only grown louder. Why would anyone go to such lengths to hide an underground complex? Why is no one allowed to continue the excavations openly? These questions hang heavy over Giza, right below the feet of millions of visitors. To this day, much of what lies beneath Egypt's most famous site remains locked away in silence. Roughly 150 miles south of Cairo in the El Minya region, archaeologists uncovered a tomb that seemed like hundreds of others, until they reached the final chamber. Inside was a skeleton with a skull that defied easy explanation. Its proportions were off-elongated, with a smooth cranial dome and oddly large eye sockets. Immediately, comparisons were drawn to the famously long-headed mummies of Paracas in Peru, but this one was in the heart of Egypt. Researchers were quick to suggest cranial deformation, an ancient practice where skulls were intentionally shaped during infancy. But here's the twist. No signs of binding were found. No pressure marks, no tool marks. Just a naturally fused, elongated skull, unlike any others in the region. It was buried alone, in a chamber surrounded by strange symbols carved directly into the stone. Not typical hieroglyphs, but abstract spirals and grid patterns that didn't match known Egyptian writing. The tomb itself was even more curious. Sealed tight, untouched for possibly 2,000 years, with no indication of royal affiliation. Yet the burial was done with precision. Whoever this individual was, they were important, but not Egyptian in the traditional sense. Some fringe theorists believe this could have been a foreign envoy, possibly even part of a forgotten elite race that predated dynastic Egypt. Others whisper something wilder, a non-human entity, honored and hidden. Is this skull proof of ancient contact with beings unknown, or a genetic anomaly buried with great care? The mystery deepens when you consider that the Egyptian authorities quickly sealed off the site. Photos leaked, but no formal reports followed, no museum displays, just silence. It's as if someone doesn't want us looking too closely. Just east of where the El Minya skull was found, back at the Giza Plateau, another enigma has kept researchers guessing for decades. The Sphinx, already wrapped in legend, may not be what we think it is. Beneath its paws lies a chamber, confirmed by multiple ground-penetrating radar scans, including a famous one by the Stanford Research Institute in the 1990s. The data revealed hollow spaces and corridors that shouldn't be there, yet they are, and they've never been excavated. Why not? That's the question that bothers everyone. The official line claims there's nothing of interest. But if that's true, why block access for over 30 years? Some researchers believe these chambers could be part of the same underground network as the Great Pyramid, possibly even connected to the lost subterranean city itself. Others go further, saying the chamber contains an ancient archive, possibly from a pre-flood civilization. The legendary Hall of Records, written about by mystics and seers for centuries. In 1996, the Egyptian Antiquities Authority allegedly denied permits to a team that wanted to drill into the chamber, citing risk of damage. But insiders claimed the real reason was pressure from international interests, and whatever lies beneath was already quietly explored and sealed again. What could be inside? A sarcophagus? Advanced technology? Ancient documents that rewrite history? No one outside the inner circle seems to know. But the data doesn't lie. The chamber is there. The entrances are blocked, and no one's allowed back in. It's as if the Sphinx, already a silent guardian, is protecting something beneath it. Something the world isn't ready to see, or something someone doesn't want revealed. Scattered throughout Egypt's oldest temples, forever, something embedded into the stone itself, waiting for someone to decode it. In early 2021, archaeologists exploring the necropolis of Taposiris Magna, just west of Alexandria, opened a sealed burial and found something that immediately sparked headlines: a mummy with a solid gold tongue placed carefully in its mouth. Unlike most mummified remains, which are often found stripped or looted, this one was intact. Even stranger, the body wasn't alone. Several others were found nearby, many with golden elements. Eye amulets, funerary masks, gilded decorations, but the tongue stood out. Thin, shiny, and shaped perfectly to sit in the mouth. Not ornamental, but intentional. Why give a mummy a golden tongue? Some scholars believe it was meant to help the dead speak in the afterlife, to communicate with Osiris during judgment. That's what the texts suggest. But others aren't convinced. After all, golden tongues aren't a common tradition in Egyptian burials. In fact, only a few cases have ever been found. So who were these people, and why were they buried with tools no one else had? More speculative researchers think it points to a secretive priesthood or elite cult, one that knew things not recorded in official history. Could these have been oracles? Individuals meant to speak divine words from another world? The craftsmanship of the tongue itself supports the idea. It's thin, yet durable. Refined. Created with extreme care. Authorities released a handful of photos, then went silent. No full excavation report, no exhibit. Just a few snapshots of a gold tongue and a tightly wrapped body staring into the unknown. One thing is certain. Whoever this person was, they were meant to be heard. Not in this world maybe, but somewhere. Saqqara has always been one of Egypt's most active burial sites. But in 2020, during an excavation just south of the Step Pyramid, archaeologists uncovered a set of coffins that caused more questions than answers. Among the dozens of mummies found in sealed shafts were a few that stood out. Long, slender limbs, elongated skulls, and faces preserved with strange, expressionless masks. Now these mummies weren't labeled as royalty or priests. No names were carved into their coffins, yet the burials were pristine, untouched for over 2,500 years, with fine linen wrappings and polished wooden sarcophagi. When researchers took initial scans of the bodies, some features looked off. The skulls were unusually large at the top, narrowing at the chin, creating a kind of teardrop shape that didn't match typical human anatomy. In X-rays, even the bone density and structure seemed unusual. To be clear, no official source is calling them alien. But the visual similarities are hard to ignore. They don't resemble any known group from ancient Egypt. Some scientists suggested disease or deformity. Others proposed intentional skull shaping. Yet, the usual indicators of binding or cultural body modification weren't present. So who were they? One theory is that they were foreign diplomats or members of a secretive sect that practiced unknown rituals. Another posits that they weren't entirely human. Perhaps a genetically distinct population or something older than dynastic Egypt itself. What makes the whole thing even stranger is the lack of follow-up. The discovery was headline news, and then it just stopped. No detailed autopsies released, no full reports. It's as if the entire thing was quickly wrapped up, boxed and hidden away. The images, though, are real, and once you've seen them, they're hard to forget. In the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, there's a carving that has fascinated scholars, astronomers, and mystery hunters for over a century. It's circular, dense, and packed with strange symbols, animals, star clusters, humanoid forms. It's called the Dendera Zodiac, and it's one of the oldest known star maps on Earth. The relief isn't decorative. It's a precise celestial chart, carved directly into the ceiling. It shows the signs of the zodiac, constellations, and planetary alignments, including configurations that match events thousands of years ago. What's odd is how much it resembles modern star maps. The orbits, positions, and celestial bodies appear in patterns that suggest astronomical knowledge well ahead of its time. Mainstream scholars say the Dendera zodiac reflects Greek influence during the Ptolemaic period, but others aren't so sure. Some patterns suggest observations that would have required telescopes. Others align with star formations only visible from different hemispheres, and the way it was carved, with extreme symmetry and cosmic balance, doesn't match the surrounding art styles of the era. Some researchers believe it may be a surviving fragment from a much older map, passed down, altered, or even recovered from a lost civilization. There are even stories, though undocumented, of matching star charts found deep in underground chambers. If that's true, the Dendera zodiac isn't just art. It's a message, a record, maybe even a warning, and it forces us to ask, who were the true astronomers of ancient Egypt, and how far did their knowledge really go? Whether it was drawn from the stars above or something far more mysterious, it remains one of the most advanced celestial carvings ever discovered in stone. Beneath the Great Pyramid of Giza, not inside its massive stone body but carved into the rock below it, lies a structure few people have even heard of. It's been nicknamed the Spiral Chamber, and it doesn't show up on tourist maps or in most history books. But the clues to its existence come from high-precision scanning technology and old excavation notes that were quietly archived and nearly forgotten. Back in the early 2000s, a series of private ground-penetrating radar scans, some conducted by independent researchers, revealed a strange spiral-shaped cavity twisting downward beneath the base of the pyramid. Unlike the straight, functional tunnels typical of Egyptian architecture, this cavity seemed to curve and coil, almost like a helix, deeper into the limestone bedrock. The depth, unknown. The purpose, completely unrecorded. Official Egyptology rarely mentions this. Some say it's just a natural fissure. Others claim it's part of an unfinished tomb. But the shape doesn't fit. It's not just winding. It appears methodical, as if deliberately carved in a spiral. The idea that someone thousands of years ago created this hidden coil beneath the most famous structure on Earth is chilling. So what was it for? One theory suggests a ritual chamber used for initiations tied to the ancient solar cults. Another claims it's part of an energy system, a sort of pressure coil designed to harness Earth's natural frequencies. And yes, the more fringe interpretations suggest something even more dramatic, that this spiral was a kind of vessel chamber, or even a storage space for knowledge meant to be buried and found much later. Whatever the purpose, the chamber remains sealed off. No modern team has been allowed to dig into it. Some believe it was briefly accessed in the late 1990s, but nothing official was ever released. No photos, no reports, just quiet denial. Until someone is allowed to go deeper, the spiral chamber will remain just out of reach, winding silently in the dark beneath a pyramid that still refuses to give up all its secrets. Few areas on Earth are as studied as the Giza Plateau, and yet it still finds ways to surprise even the most seasoned archaeologists. Just a few dozen feet from the Sphinx, buried in a sealed stone cache near the bedrock, researchers discovered something that shouldn't have been there. A set of weapons, knives and blades, not made from metal but from something far more mysterious. Quartz crystal. The objects were sharp, perfectly symmetrical, and partially translucent. The craftsmanship was exceptional. Smooth edges, balanced weight, even ornamental carvings etched directly into the crystal. But no known Egyptian dynasty ever mass-produced weaponry from quartz. It's a material that's fragile when mishandled and requires sophisticated tools to shape accurately. So why were they buried near the Sphinx? And who made them? Some archaeologists say they were ceremonial, never meant for battle, but instead used in high-level rituals. That would make sense, given the proximity to one of Egypt's most sacred structures. Yet others have pointed out the lack of symbolic markings or inscriptions. No cartouches, no royal names, just geometry, clean, cold, and precise. Even more bizarre, some of the blades showed no signs of erosion, despite being thousands of years old and entombed near limestone-rich ground. This suggests they were sealed in a way to prevent any environmental decay. Someone wanted these objects to survive undisturbed. Theories range from lost technologies to a priesthood that mastered a forgotten art of crystal shaping. More speculative voices even claim these could have been tools from a non-human culture, brought and buried to preserve knowledge, or hide it. Egyptian authorities released only a few official photos. Since then, the weapons have vanished into museum archives with no current public display. What we're left with is the knowledge that, beneath the sand beside the Sphinx, someone once buried weapons too advanced, too pristine, and too out of place to ignore. Just behind the Great Pyramid, nestled between two stone walls, and easy to overlook, is a small fenced-off hole in the ground. It doesn't look like much, but what lies beneath is one of Giza's most baffling and underexplored features. It's called the Osiris Shaft, and it descends nearly 100 feet straight down through bedrock into a multi-level underground complex, completely filled with water. 3 chambers, 1 vertical shaft, no inscriptions, no decorations, just rough walls, open space, and sarcophagi too large to move without major effort. The lowest level, submerged year-round, contains a massive granite sarcophagus, too wide for the tunnel above it. So the big question is, how did it get there? Mainstream scholars say it's a symbolic tomb dedicated to Osiris, the god of the underworld. But if it was only symbolic, why go through the trouble of carving such a deep and dangerous shaft? Why bury it beneath layers of bedrock in total secrecy? There are no public pathways, no light, no signs. It wasn't meant to be found easily. Some researchers have proposed that the Osiris shaft was part of an initiation chamber for priests or royalty, a kind of spiritual descent into the underworld. Others take the theory further. They believe it was a gateway, not in the science fiction sense of teleportation, but as a physical structure meant to harness Earth's energy and align with the stars, a cosmic connector between this world and something far beyond. When Zahi Hawass first entered the shaft, it was flooded and pitch black. Divers went in with cameras, and what they found only raised more questions. Why the massive sarcophagus? Why the silence surrounding the discovery? And what lies beneath the water that no one is talking about? It's one of the deepest man-made structures at Giza, and one of the least understood. A tomb, a temple, or a forgotten doorway to something we've yet to comprehend? The answers might still be buried under the water, waiting. In the ancient city of Avaris, once the bustling capital of the Hyksos dynasty in northern Egypt, archaeologists uncovered something truly strange during a careful excavation of a palace complex. While mapping out the royal courtyard, the team came across several pits arranged in a deliberate pattern. Inside, human hands, right hands, buried on their own, with no accompanying bodies, jewelry, or objects. This wasn't a battlefield site, it wasn't a crime scene. Everything about the placement seemed intentional, even ceremonial. The hands had been neatly placed, not dumped. And the fact that they were all right hands was especially notable. Ancient Egyptian records speak of a military tradition where enemy combatants or warriors would surrender a right hand as a way to claim rewards or prove a victory. The findings at Avaris could very well be the physical evidence of this practice, possibly the first real example ever discovered. But the mystery deepens when you look closer at the remains. Some of the hands were exceptionally large, with bone structures that didn't fit the typical size range of the local population. Were they just warriors with above-average builds, outsiders, or something more symbolic? It's important to note that these hands weren't displayed publicly or thrown into the desert. They were buried with care, right within the palace grounds, a place of power. Some researchers think this suggests a ritual or cultural rite, one with spiritual meaning tied to strength, bravery, or even protection. There's no clear answer yet. Since the discovery, the site has been preserved, and scholars continue to study the finds with cautious respect. While some theories lean toward practical explanations, others believe the presence of such unusually large hands hints at a deeper layer of ancient belief, or perhaps a group of people history didn't fully record. Whatever the truth, the hands at Avaris open a new chapter in understanding how the ancient world marked triumph, conflict, and power, in ways that still leave us quietly puzzled today. In 2020, archaeologists working on the west bank of Luxor made a headline-grabbing announcement. They had uncovered 30 previously unknown tombs, tucked away in a hillside not far from the Valley of the Kings. What made this find remarkable wasn't just the number. It was their condition. Many of them were completely untouched. Inside, the tombs held colorful coffins, carved statues, funerary masks, and walls covered in vibrant paintings, scenes that looked like they were finished yesterday. The colors hadn't faded, the inscriptions were clear, and in some tombs, even the burial goods were still in place. Some of the tombs belonged to high priests, others to scribes and workers, not kings or queens but people who kept Egypt running behind the scenes. Yet, the care put into their burials was astonishing. In one chamber, archaeologists found a perfectly intact sarcophagus surrounded by pottery, amulets, and tools. It had never been opened. What's fascinating is how hidden these tombs were. They weren't in plain sight, and they didn't follow the grand axis of royal burials. They were carved into the rock in a more private way, almost secretively. Some believe this was intentional. an attempt to shield them from tomb robbers. Others think it was tied to a local cult or forgotten group that followed its own burial customs. Among the finds were rare papyri, unusually shaped Shabti figures, and even a burial with a wooden mask unlike any seen before, almost tribal in design. The tombs are now being carefully studied, but most of the discoveries haven't reached the public yet. If these 30 were found in just one season, who knows how many more lie hidden in the cliffs of Luxor? It's a reminder that Egypt still has secrets. And sometimes it's not the pharaohs who surprise us, but the quiet lives of those who served them.
In 1991, two hikers stumbled upon something that would change history: a perfectly preserved human body frozen in the ice of the Utstal Alps. At first glance, they thought it was just another unlucky climber, but it wasn't. It turned out to be a 5,300-year-old mummy. They called him Utsi. Scientists were thrilled. The world was fascinated, but what followed wasn't excitement, it was death. It started with the people closest to the discovery. Helmut Simon, one of the hikers who found Utsi, went missing during a hike years later. When they found his body, it was in almost the exact same conditions as Utsi's, frozen in a remote area, covered in snow. Then came the researcher who placed the mummy in its case at the museum, dead from a rare blood disease. Next, the mountaineer who helped recover Utsi's body died in an avalanche. The forensic expert who examined him fell in a car crash. The list goes on. At least 7 individuals closely tied to the mummy's discovery or research have died under strange and sometimes violent circumstances. Of course, skeptics say it's all coincidence, but when a pattern keeps repeating, people start to ask questions. Why is it that those who disturb Utsi seem to fall into deadly misfortune? Some believe the mummy is cursed not in a Hollywood horror kind of way, but in something older, colder, more primal. A guardian of ancient secrets best left untouched. Adding to the mystery, researchers found strange tattoos on Utsi's body, over 60 of them, and they weren't just decorative, many align with acupuncture points. Some believe they may be part of a forgotten ritual system healing, or maybe protective in nature. If those symbols were meant to ward off evil, then disturbing the mummy might have broken something that was never meant to be tampered with. Whether it's science, superstition, or something in between, Utsi's story hasn't stopped claiming headlines or lives. This isn't just about an ancient corpse in a glass case. It's about what happens when the deep past collides with the present, and maybe fights back. It looks like an ordinary wine cabinet. Polished wood, brass fixtures, nothing that screams danger. But this small box, known as the Dybbuk box, has terrified everyone who's come into contact with it. The story began when it was sold at an estate auction with a warning, "Don't open it." Of course someone did. So the box originally belonged to a Holocaust survivor who believed it housed a Dybbuk, which is, a restless spirit in Jewish folklore. The first buyer claimed it caused sudden nightmares, health problems, and these really strange, unexplained smells of jasmine and cat urine. Later owners reported things like failing electronics, swarms of insects, and some pretty horrific visions. Even hardened skeptics couldn't explain why their lives just spiraled after owning the box. It gained serious attention after being featured on TV and in horror films. But what really chilled people was when rapper Post Malone reportedly had a close encounter with the Dybbuk box, and soon after suffered a series of bizarre accidents, including a plane emergency landing and a car crash. Was it coincidence or, something else? The box is now sealed in a display at a haunted museum in Las Vegas. Visitors say they feel sick, cold, or just overwhelmed near it. Some folks even refuse to look at it directly. It's locked behind glass, but honestly, no one feels entirely safe. Because if the spirit inside is real, the curse doesn't stay in the box. It follows you. Uluru, the massive red monolith rising from the heart of Australia, is one of the world's most sacred places. It's not just a rock. To the local Anangu people, it's alive with ancient power. And for decades, tourists have been warned, do not take anything from Uluru. Some ignored that, and they paid for it. Every year, park rangers receive packages from around the world, rocks, sand, or fragments of Uluru, returned by people who say their lives fell apart after taking them. Letters describe streaks of bad luck illnesses, job losses, broken families, accidents that defy explanation. One man claimed his business collapsed the week after he pocketed a stone. Another said his house burned down just days later. These aren't isolated cases. There are hundreds of such letters, many written with desperation, begging forgiveness. Some tourists even travel thousands of miles to return the items in person, terrified of what might happen if they don't. Geologists might shrug, but the emotional impact is real. Visitors say the rock feels watchful, and the Anangu people believe its sacred law can't be broken without consequence. Even though climbing Uluru was banned years ago, the curse stories haven't stopped. In fact, they've only spread further, especially on social media where people post their experiences and regrets. Whether it's a curse, karma, or a powerful cultural force, Uluru isn't something you take lightly. And for many, the lesson came too late. So, just a short boat ride from Venice, there's an island where even seasoned locals totally refuse to go. Poveglia is abandoned now, its decaying buildings just strangled by vines. But you know, it wasn't always empty. This place was once a plague quarantine station. Later, it became an asylum. And today it's considered one of the most cursed spots in Europe. Legend says over 100,000 people died here. Victims of the Black Death were dumped into pits and burned. Some were even thrown into the fire still breathing. Centuries later, mental patients claimed they heard screams at night and saw shadows in the halls. One doctor, obsessed with cruel experiments, supposedly jumped from the bell tower, saying he was pushed by ghosts. The island is closed to the public, but a few brave or maybe just foolish explorers have sneaked in. They report overwhelming dread, sudden dizziness, and strange voices in the empty halls. Equipment fails without warning, cameras just shut off, and more than one visitor has said the silence on Poveglia is too quiet, as if the island is holding its breath. What makes it worse is that nothing has been done to reclaim the land. It's as if Italy itself doesn't want to touch it. Even billion-dollar developers backed away. The air, they say, just feels wrong. And for those who do set foot there, something often follows them back. Discovered in Eastern Europe in the 1800s, the woman from Lem is this small limestone statue with a blank stare and, honestly, a pretty oddly proportioned body. Archaeologists called her the goddess of death, partly because of her ancient look, but mostly because of what happened to the people who owned her. The statue passed through several wealthy collectors and, well, every family that possessed it suffered tragedy. The first owner's entire family reportedly died within just a few years. The second family met similar misfortune. When it reached a third collector, he tried to donate it to a museum, but even staff there were uncomfortable around it. One worker claimed it felt charged, kind of like static electricity in the air. Eventually, it landed in the Royal Scottish Museum, where it's kept locked in a special vault. Some curators actually refused to handle it directly. A few believe it may have been used in ritual practices, maybe as a vessel for a spirit, or as a representation of something people feared. Whether it was a curse placed by ancient hands or just an unsettling object with a really bad history, the pattern was honestly impossible to ignore. Today, the statue isn't on display to the public. Visitors often ask about it, and some staff will only speak in hushed tones. They say it's not worth risking more lives. What's odd is that there's never been an official explanation. No one talks about it openly. But the statue remains sealed away, as if that's the only thing keeping its curse quiet. Right in the heart of Oakland Cemetery stands this towering black statue of an angel, wings spread, head bowed. At first glance, it looks like a monument to sorrow, but, locals see it as something way more sinister. The black angel is said to carry a curse, and, honestly, touching it might just change your fate. The statue was originally bronze, but over the years it oxidized, turning this deep, unnatural black. Some folks even say this transformation wasn't chemical at all, it was supernatural. So, legends claim that anyone who touches the angel at night will be struck by misfortune, or, even worse. Couples who kiss beneath its wings risk a relationship that's just doomed to fail. There are even whispers of people collapsing near it, only to later fall seriously ill. The monument was actually erected by a grieving woman after her husband and child passed away. Some say the sorrow in her heart just soaked into the statue, leaving behind more than just a memorial. Others believe the angel became a kind of gatekeeper, tied to the spirits buried beneath it. What makes this story especially chilling is that people keep testing the curse. Every year, thrill seekers visit the cemetery on Halloween, daring each other to touch the statue. Most laugh it off, but some, a small number, don't. Stories surface of car crashes days later, unexpected health scares, or months of inexplicable bad luck. The statue still stands, silent and cold. It doesn't move, it doesn't speak. But those who've felt its presence say it watches. And it remembers. In 1971, 2 small stone heads were dug up in the backyard of a house in Hexham, England. They were simple carvings, one male, one female, and didn't look particularly threatening. But once they surfaced, things started happening. Strange things. The family who found them reported objects moving on their own, doors slamming shut, and cold blasts of air from nowhere. Then it escalated. A figure began appearing part human, part beast. A werewolf-like creature that stalked their property at night. It wasn't just a fleeting shadow. One witness claimed it stood upright and growled. Word of the heads spread and they were sent to researchers. One expert took them home, only to have his own family experience similar phenomena. The beast followed the heads. Wherever they went, the atmosphere changed. Plants wilted, pets panicked. Even seasoned investigators admitted something was off. One theory is that the heads are Celtic in origin, possibly tied to a forgotten ritual or pagan god. Another claims they might be modern, but carved with intent objects of dark magic rather than archaeology. Either way, the fear they brought was very real. Eventually, the heads vanished from public record. No museum has them. No one admits to possessing them. It's as if they were hidden on purpose. But those who believe in their curse worry they could be unearthed again. Because the legend says they never stay buried for long. In a small Spanish village called Belmes de la Moraleda, something truly unexplainable began happening in the 1970s. A woman named Maria Gomez was preparing lunch when she noticed a stain forming on her kitchen floor. But it wasn't just a stain, it was a face. A human face, detailed and eerie, staring up at her from the concrete. Her husband tried to destroy it, even removing the entire floor. But, days later, a new face appeared. Then another, and another. The faces varied, some male, some female, some distorted like they were caught mid-scream. Word spread and soon paranormal researchers descended on the village. What makes this case so bizarre is that the faces were analyzed extensively. Chemical tests were done. No pigments, no dyes, just unexplained image formation. Some experts called it a hoax, but honestly, no one could prove how it was done. And despite being scrubbed, sealed, and resurfaced, the faces kept returning, sometimes changing expression over time. Even more disturbing were the diggings beneath the kitchen. Human bones were found, some without skulls. Locals started whispering about unquiet spirits tied to the ground where the house stood. Some say the faces are souls trying to communicate or warn. The house is still there. Visitors say the air feels heavy. And the current owners? They've stopped trying to erase the faces. They've learned it's better to let them be. Carved deep into weathered stone, the Basque witch cross isn't just decoration, it's protection. Locals believe it repels evil, but this version is different. In the center, an eye, blood red, always watching. Some call it the Eye of Curse, claiming it doesn't just block malevolent forces, it mirrors them back. The exact design has resurfaced in old grimoires, and even on the foreheads of those said to be marked. In one story, a hiker in Navarre mocked a stone bearing the symbol, and later began carving the same shape into his own skin, without knowing why. Villagers say when the symbol appears in pairs carved and worn, something ancient has been awakened. When British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, the world was stunned. Gold, treasures, and a sealed burial untouched. For over 3,000 years, it was a gateway to ancient Egypt's hidden world. But from the moment the tomb was opened, something else seemed to awaken. Something dark? The idea of the pharaoh's curse wasn't just a myth anymore, it began to feel dangerously real. Just months after the tomb was opened, Carter's financial backer, Lord Carnarvon, died suddenly from an infected mosquito bite. His dog howled and dropped dead at the exact same time back in England. The newspapers exploded with talk of an ancient curse. It wasn't long before more deaths followed. People connected to the excavation doctors, museum workers, even relatives met bizarre and early ends. One died in a mysterious fire, another from unexplained poisoning. A secretary reportedly dropped dead after merely watching the tomb being opened. While modern scientists have offered explanations, mold spores, psychological stress, coincidence the pattern was just too eerie to ignore. What added fuel to the fire was how every piece of Tutankhamun's treasure seemed to bring bad luck to those who handled it. Museums reported flickering lights, broken security systems, and staff resignations. Some visitors said they felt watched when standing near the boy king's mask. Others claimed sudden dizziness or chest pressure, like the air was just too thick. And it hasn't stopped. In recent years, strange accidents have been reported involving new research or relocation of the artifacts. Even a documentary crew filming the tomb reported hard drive crashes, corrupted footage, and one cameraman developing a sudden illness. Some believe Tutankhamun's soul still guards his resting place, and that any disturbance invites consequences. Egyptian authorities officially deny the curse, calling it tourist legend, but some archaeologists privately admit they won't step inside the tomb again. Not out of fear, but out of respect for something they can't explain. Something that doesn't seem to rest no matter how many centuries have passed. So, in 1974, Chinese farmers digging a well stumbled upon one of the most extraordinary discoveries of the 20th century: thousands of life-sized clay soldiers buried beneath the ground near Xi'an. Each statue was unique, carved with astonishing detail and arranged in battle formation. They weren't just statues, they were guardians, protecting something much older and possibly much more dangerous. These warriors were created to serve China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, in the afterlife. But many believe they also guard his tomb, a burial chamber still sealed to this day. Chinese legends warn that disturbing the emperor's rest would bring death and disaster. And, well, soon after the site was uncovered, some began to suspect the curse was already in motion. Of the original 7 farmers who found the terracotta army, only one survived past middle age. Several died under strange or unfortunate circumstances, and others lost everything they had. One reportedly became homeless. Their once celebrated discovery brought them nothing but hardship. Even some of the early archaeologists and officials involved in the site's excavation suffered sudden illnesses, financial ruin, or unexplainable bad luck. To this day, the central tomb, believed to contain rivers of liquid mercury and ancient traps, remains untouched. Not because the technology isn't there, but because many experts fear what opening it might unleash. Soil tests around the tomb confirm extremely high levels of mercury, just as ancient texts described. The warnings, it seems, were never metaphorical. The terracotta army still stands silently underground, guarding secrets no one dares to fully unlock. And maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not meant to. It's one of the most famous gems in the world, a 45-carat deep blue diamond that sparkles like the night sky. The Hope Diamond is a priceless treasure displayed behind glass at the Smithsonian, but its glittering surface hides a history of misfortune, betrayal, and untimely death. Some say it's cursed, others say it's cursed on purpose. Legend traces the diamond back to India, where it was supposedly stolen from the eye of a sacred statue. The thief met a violent end. After that, every known owner of the diamond seemed to fall into ruin. In France, it belonged to King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. Both were beheaded. A later owner went insane. Another was mauled by wild dogs. A wealthy heiress gave it away after her family crumbled into scandal and tragedy. The diamond passed through jewelers, royals, and millionaires, and, well, misfortune followed each one. Even its name comes from one of its cursed owners, Henry Philip Hope, whose family fortune declined soon after acquiring it. Every attempt to cut, sell, or reset the stone brought new rounds of strange accidents, suicides, and financial collapse. It became so feared that one later owner mailed it anonymously to the Smithsonian no-note. Just a box and a curse quietly returned. Today, the Hope Diamond rests under careful lighting, watched by cameras 24/7. But even behind all that security, visitors say it radiates something cold. Museum staff have reported flickering lights, sudden chills, and tech malfunctions near the display. Some believe the curse is dormant waiting, others say it never left. Beautiful, dangerous, unforgettable. The Hope Diamond isn't just a gem, it's a warning carved in stone. In the heart of Prague, surrounded by Gothic towers and cobbled streets, stands one of the oldest functioning astronomical clocks in the world, the horloge. It has ticked for over 600 years, showing not just the time, but the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Tourists gather every hour to watch the procession of saints and hear the bell toll. But behind its beauty, there's a dark legend: the clock is cursed, and disturbing it can bring death. The story begins with its creator, Master Hanush. He was a genius clockmaker, and after he built the horloge, city officials feared he might recreate it elsewhere. So they had him blinded. The legend says he got his revenge by slipping back into the tower and breaking the mechanism. No one could repair it. And when they tried, tragedy followed. The city plunged into a mysterious decline, and the man who attempted to fix the clock died suddenly under unclear circumstances. For years, no one dared tamper with it. When a team finally restored it in the mid-20th century, Electrical fires broke out shortly afterward in the surrounding area. Some dismissed them as coincidences until more stories began to circulate. One technician who worked on the gears developed an inexplicable illness. Another suffered a breakdown. Even today, workers claim the inside of the clock tower feels off, as if something ancient and mechanical is watching. One detail that's often overlooked is the skeleton figure on the clock, a representation of death. It rings the bell every hour with a smug nod, as if mocking the living. Locals believe that if the clock ever stops working, something terrible will happen to Prague. And oddly enough, every time it's malfunctioned, the city has faced unrest or disaster. Engineers maintain it with care now, but not without a sense of caution. No one touches the skeleton, and no one jokes about the curse. Because even in the age of satellites and digital time, this medieval machine still commands a fear that runs deeper than logic, as if time itself is keeping a score. So in the 1980s, fire departments all across the UK started noticing something really unsettling. House after house went up in flames. Entire rooms just reduced to ash. But, in the middle of all that rubble, there was always this one thing that showed up untouched, a painting of a young boy with tears streaming down his face. These weren't just one-off incidents either. It happened dozens of times. Same painting, same weird survival. People started calling it the Crying Boy Curse. The artwork, mass-produced by an Italian painter and sold in department stores, seemed harmless. Millions of homes had it hanging in living rooms and hallways. But when stories spread that houses with the painting were mysteriously catching fire and that the painting was always found unburned, fear spread fast. Firefighters began warning people to take it down. One station even refused to keep a copy inside the building, afraid it would trigger a blaze. Newspapers fanned the flames, literally. Tabloids printed pages titled "Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy," featuring stories of survivors swearing the artwork was the only item to make it through the inferno without a mark. Some described feeling watched by the painting before the fire. Others claimed their pets behaved strangely around it. Skeptics blamed the varnish on the print for being flame-resistant. But that doesn't explain the frequency, or the fact that in some cases the painting was the only object that didn't even fall off the wall. No scorch marks, no warping, just those sorrowful eyes staring out from the ashes. People began destroying the paintings en masse. Bonfires were lit, paintings were torn up, but others believed destroying it might actually unleash whatever energy was trapped inside. To this day, versions of the Crying Boy still surface in thrift stores and antique shops. Some brave collectors even seek them out, daring the curse to strike again. Most passers-by just keep walking, because once you've seen what that little boy leaves behind, you never want to see him hanging on your own wall. That's about it. Which curse do you believe in? Write in the comments, and don't forget to check out our other videos.